Listen, strange women lying in ponds, distributing swords is no basis for a system of government. You can't expect to wield supreme power just because some watery tart threw a sword at you.
Okay, folks, we are diving right back into another episode of Uncut Civilization VI. We are picking up a considerable number of turns from where we left off before, and the reason is because there was much to do after dealing with a seemingly never-ending war with Teddy Roosevelt. His lands were ravaged, and I had to do a lot of repairing. So, as you can see, Washington has been renamed to Rogel Dorn, courtesy of High Marshal Jaeger, formerly known as Black Templar, so you got your city right there. And Artie Party suggested we rename a city colony, so this, I think it was Charleston, it's now Colony. And it's my colony, so it feels good. And yeah, the status of the world is pretty interesting, and today we're going to talk a little bit about how I feel about Alexander as a civ, what I like about him, what I don't like, yada yada, etc, etc. And maybe I'll throw in a couple of other ramblings. But something interesting I did, you'll notice that there are builders all over the map, and the reason I have so many of them is because there was a point in time when I switched over to the colonization policy, and courtesy of the Civ Improvements Patch, or the Civ Improvements mod rather, it gives you plus 30% production towards builders, plus 50% towards settlers, and also builders have 2 additional charges. So if you're ever in a place where you're thinking, okay, I want to make a lot of improvements to my city, you put that policy on and you just churn out builders like a maniac, and then when it comes time to switch, you switch it up, and then you probably won't have to build another builder until a couple of eras down the line. But at this point though, we have enough builders, or at least I feel like I have enough, so we can switch off that policy to something different. As for what I'm going to switch it to, I think Insulae, I'm probably saying that wrong, but Insulae is a pretty decent one. I'm always struggling to gain housing, and this is going to increase our housing by 1 in cities with 1 or more specialty district, which is all the cities, and then plus 3 food, so that'll help us gain the much needed population. And we're going to go ahead and confirm those changes, but you know what? We have to go back into the policy menu because I just unlocked a new government. We have finally become a monarchy. So our cities that have medieval walls, which is currently none, will gain plus 2 housing. So we're going to have to work towards that. And we also have access to more military policy slots than we had before. And we triggered a Eureka. So our research towards castles is now complete. So we can start getting to work on those walls.
If you see a castle under fog, you must walk there to meet the extraordinary dreams.
Boom, and what a beautiful quote we get for achieving that. So I'm still keeping maritime industries because I've got so many cities that have fish in them. The Washington, the city that we took from Teddy Roosevelt, had, I think, 4 crabs in it, so we're probably never going to get rid of that policy. But as for what we do for the rest of our military stuff, conscription is brilliant because there aren't that many luxury resources near me, so we're going to get plus 1 amenity for cities with a garrisoned unit. And for the final military policy, there's not really anything I need in particular, but I'm going to go for neutral philosophy. It seems like an interesting policy, plus 1 food and plus 1 production for every pasture. I've got a decent amount of those, and plantation as well, and camp. Wow. So it's increasing the value of a lot of different improvements at the cost of 2 gold per city. And currently I'm raking in 80 gold per turn. So it seems like a decent sacrifice. It'll sort of, you know, we'll make stuff faster and our population will go up a little faster, but it'll cost a little money. Another interesting decision forced courtesy of the Civ Improvements mod. So boom, let's go ahead and apply that, and if we don't like it, we can always change it in a couple of turns. But it seems like an interesting decision. Boom. Yeah, we're not going to lose out on too much money because of that. So yeah, we've got a lot of stuff to do. There's still 1 farm that has been left on fire from 1,000 years ago. We may as well fix that thing up so we can get the most out of all of the things that we have, and just continue doing a little bit of busy work. But Macedonia, I like them. I like Macedonia. I don't think it's my favorite early game Civ, I'm gonna have to say Gorgo still trumps it out a little bit, but I've enjoyed the time that I've spent with Macedonia a lot. The unique units are very fun and very powerful, but it's a little weird feeling, and I think it might be because I've played him a little bit wrong, maybe, right? So what I did at the start of the game was I made a decision to go for a religion, which meant in the early stages I only had barracks and holy sites in my two main cities, and I'm starting to feel the effects of it a little bit because I'm in last place in the science department along with Teddy Roosevelt. So I mean, he kind of fucked us both a little bit because of that, because maybe things would have been different if I didn't have to churn out so much military. But even though, the interesting thing is that even though I didn't have many campus districts for the majority of the game, I'm starting to get some up and running now. I got one in Windy Valley and one in Rogel Dorn, the city that we captured from Teddy. I'm not completely behind. I feel like if I didn't have that little bit of extra science that was granted by the unique building from the barracks, then I would have been way farther behind in science. Maybe I'd still be in the classical era, who knows. But it's an interesting trade-off that you have to make if you want to play other types of games. If you want to make that sacrifice and go religion, then I think religion pairs pretty well with military in case you get those guys. It's like, don't convert me. It's like, motherfucker, I got horses, okay? You gonna take this Jesus. You gonna take it or you gonna get horse. It's one or the other. And most people take Jesus instead of horse. You know, that's where the Inquisitions come from. But yeah, but by going down this religious route, I don't feel like I've made a mistake so much that I feel like I have to play catch up now that I'm no longer fighting. So on that note, I think it's good. I think Macedonia is doing what it's supposed to do. But at the same time, it does feel like I should have gone science instead of religion. I feel like it might have been more optimal to go down a science route for Macedonia, just because you can snowball it a little bit better. If you have barracks and campuses to start instead of barracks and holy sites, then your science will spiral out of control. Especially if you're going for an early game war, you can just get mega science and you'll advance through the ages insanely fast. So I don't know. It's interesting though. I've said interesting. If you take a shot every time I said the word interesting, you will be dead by the 5-minute mark. But yeah, I like it though. I like it, and it looks like we have something left to repair in Rogel Dorn. But I'm not gonna worry about repairing the cemetery just yet. That's a building from a mod that just gives us more faith, and we currently have 3,000 faith because I'm not spending it at the moment. So, you know, we're not exactly starved for faith. But what we are, actually, that faith makes me think. I have all this extra faith that I could be spending on the great people that aren't really being taken advantage of, like great admirals are usually not very, very great, but I could recruit another great general with faith. I could recruit this great merchant that I was working for with faith. Or I could save. So the reason I'm looking to get this great merchant is because he gives us toys, and I don't have a lot of amenities across all my cities. So maybe I could speed up that process and just get it right now. Because what I've been doing for the past, through over some of the turns that I skipped, is the commercial hub investment, which is giving me great merchant points because I want to make sure I get those toys. We got to get the Hasbro. All right. But I could just buy it with faith, and that's something I've been neglecting because I don't play the religious game very often. But whatever we decide to do, we've got options, and a lot of good options, to say the least. I may save the faith. I may spend. I'll decide before the episode is over. But anyway, going back to Macedonia and how I feel about the civilization. The unique units are fantastic, but the problem with the unique units for Macedonia is I feel like they can probably get countered a little bit easier versus actual players, like human players, as opposed to the AI, because the AI is not that smart, right? If I was Teddy Roosevelt and I was going against Macedonia, I would have built more spearmen, but he just had a wall of archers, which for what it's worth worked pretty well. But a couple of spearmen, especially if going against a civ like Gorgo, would have stopped my relentless assault with my horse. But at the same time, if I built a diverse army from the start with swordsmen and horsemen, I would have stomped over an army like Gorgo's, which is predominantly focused with spearmen. Maybe. So I wonder how. I wonder how powerful the unique unit really is. If it has enough counterplay, or maybe there isn't really a strong counterplay for it, because if you do build a balanced military with whatever civ you're playing, then you can put a stop to it. It'll be difficult, but you can put a stop to it. Overall, though, I think it's strong. I think it's really strong. It does. Because I'm trying to think of all the different possible scenarios, and just because there are a lot of scenarios coming up in my head for how different wars could play out versus real players versus different AI, it all sort of it bounces back and forth. In some of the situations that I'm thinking about, we win. In some of the situations, we lose. So maybe that means that Macedonia has the potential to be unstoppable if you're not playing the right game in the military aspect. Like if I, for example, perfect example right here. If I were to try and take Jerusalem with a military force, then they would probably, especially earlier on, they would have defeated me probably pretty easily, because they've got a mix of swordsmen, they've got heavy chariots, they've got a spearman, they've got a diverse army. But at the beginning, I was churning out only horsemen, so I would have gotten countered pretty hard. My unique units wouldn't have done well. So maybe that just means that they're well balanced, and if you build a balanced military, then you'll beat somebody who has a balanced military as well, because yours are just stronger. So the final conclusion, though, really for Macedonia is they're pretty damn cool, man. And if you want to play a match of Civ where you just dominate the early game, where there's a really strong potential that you will dominate the early game, then Macedonia is definitely a good candidate for that, because of all the potential there with those unique units to really spiral out of control and just overpower somebody. And I wonder, though, how this game is going to continue playing out into the later stages, because right now I have unique buildings in all of my barracks, which means whenever I produce a military unit, I'm going to get science equal to 25% of that unit's cost. But I'm not building any military units at the moment, which means that benefit is completely useless. So, you know, that's something to consider. It like basically the only time you get that benefit is when you're preparing for war, and right now I'm not preparing for war, so my unique thing doesn't mean shit at the moment. So I don't know. Maybe that's what Alexander is all about, though. Maybe he's about having peaks and valleys in his strength and in his advancement in science. You're just not supposed to be a science superpower at all times. Oh, of course, Katerina believes that there are... Catherine, I mean, not Katerina. She believes that there are games are being played here on so many levels. I always feel like whenever Catherine de Medici says that, or I don't know what it is. Whenever Catherine of France says that line, I always feel like she's a nagging girlfriend kind of character, where she's saying something and she knows what's really happening, but she's trying to get you to lie about it. You know what I'm saying? It's like you ever break something and then you hide it, and somebody comes to ask you, "Hey, did you see the do you know where I put my phone?" And you're like, "Nah, I didn't see your phone." But meanwhile, you dropped that shit on the floor and you cracked the screen.
Without mathematics, there's nothing you can do. Everything around you is mathematics. Everything around you is numbers.
So you cracked the screen. Catherine knows you cracked the screen on her iPhone 7. But she's asking you, "Hey, have you seen my iPhone 7? And you're like, "Nah." And she's like, "I got you, motherfucker. I know you spying on me. I know you trying to declare war. Get your troops off my border." You know? I think that's what Catherine's all about. But on a different note, I'm trying to get my population cap in Windy Valley up to 13 as quickly as possible so that I can build an industrial zone. Because I've got a couple of cities that are pretty decent candidates for industrial zones, but not all of them. And I think Windy Valley would be pretty decent for it. They've got a couple of mountain tiles right here, or not mountain hills, where I can build quarries and whatnot, and that'll buff up the production there. But you know what? For now, we'll build medieval walls, get that housing even higher than it already is. And then, you know what? I've needed amenities in Riceland for ages now. And I'm just so tempted to buy this great person with faith, but maybe what I should do is continue doing my commercial hub investment and then purchase the next great merchant with faith. And that could be a smart idea for me. All right, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to buy it with faith. John Spielsbury, you're mine. Give me them toys. And then you know what? Let's see how much the next great merchant gives and what he offers. Gain 250 gold and 2 envoys. You know what? I'm going to take that money. I'm getting 118 faith per turn. So what else am I going to spend it on? Yeah. Yeah, that feels right. Okay. So there we go. I've gotten two great merchants in a single turn, all because of faith, which means maybe going military and religion wasn't such a bad idea. And now I'm going to switch off my production from the commercial hub thing to encampment training because I want that next great general. He's got a pretty cool thing for modern era cavalry units. So I think I'm going to try and snag that from France. What do they need it for? They're not going to go to war with anyone, and if they do, they're just going to surrender. That's a joke. We're going to move on to military engineering, and we're going to work on getting the next era of military units, the pikemen, the knight, and the musketman. Because, damn it, even though we're at peace times and I'm really, really enjoying the very peaceful micromanaging that's going on at the moment, I like I said, I love watching my cities just grow. I've got so many lumber mills going on. I've got a bunch of crabs, you know, just my people are fishing for crabs. Rogel Dorn, a.k.a. Fish City number 2, is doing well. Colony is doing well. And this is my favorite part of Civ. I've been sitting here smiling ear to ear because of all the micromanaging that I'm doing at the moment. But it's not going to last forever. All right, the war has to come again. And when war does come again, I think we're going to either have to finish what we started or start something entirely new. And by that, I mean, we're going to take Baltimore, Berlin, and maybe even this other city that I can't pronounce. But some things are going to happen in the near future. I've got plans brewing. I've got ideas working in my head. So with all that said, I'm going to finish up this turn, and then we're going to take a little break. Let's just continue getting out the buildings that I really need. Terrace housing. It's another unique building. Increases housing capacity by 3. Going to just purchase the processing mill in Colony. We're going to get 250 more gold in the next turn from our great merchant. Things are going well. So with that said, as always, folks, name of the game, Civilization VI. The name of the channel is iBluairJgR Gamer for Comedy. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. And if you haven't bought the DLC, fuck it, spend $5, have some fun. Macedonia is pretty cool. I'll see you next time.